Well, Nicholas Gibbs, I think all I can say is historic. There's
Enough said.
enough
End the
said.
episode.
I've been saying for weeks and weeks that this is the most important, the largest single product release or service release in history in terms of the TAM, in terms of the potential profits. Nothing comes close. Most people have not disagreed with me. We've got at least one vehicle driving around. I don't know if we've got 10 or 20 or how many there are out there, but we have at least one, and the community has gone crazy. And with excitement, the stock has gone up dramatically, or not as dramatically as maybe I would have thought. What do you think?
First of all, a lot's happened since we spoke last week. But I will say the day after, I was on with Brian and Herbert, and this is exactly how I said it would happen. Exactly.
Exactly.
Nobody else said this is how it would happen. Listen, I'm going to take my credit where I can. This is exactly
Let me
how
see
I
if
said
I
this would
let me
happen.
see if I can say it because you said it on my channel too. You said it will not be with any fanfare. It'll be ahead of. Oh, actually, I don't think you designated. You said it will not be on the 12th. It will be on any other day but the 12th. Am I getting it right? Huh? Do I listen to you or what?
You are. And I said that the way we'll know at launch is somebody will finally see one and they'll post on X and it'll kind of go viral. And that's exactly what happened. Now, obviously, it's dumb luck, right? All these guesses are always dumb luck, but I'll take my dumb luck where I can get it, especially after the week we've had.
especially after the week we've had. I mean, holy mackerel, what in the world is going on out there? So we've had, just a quick, you know, uh, overview. We had Elon and the president getting back together again, it appears. The president even said he thought Elon should give him a call. Um, it looks like that part is over. They've both got bigger fish to fry with something like a riot happening across the country, and the POTUS taking another opportunity, having another opportunity to show the folks how it's done.
Let's touch on that real quick,
Oh,
just because
sure.
I haven't spoken on this yet, Randy, and I know
Oh,
you and I
good.
are kind of going to take opposite sides on this.
Oh, wow.
Elon should probably not have done what he did publicly, the way he did it.
100%.
He's not in the wrong.
He was,
Trump was more in the wrong, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, Elon has the cards, not Trump, is the way I see it.
oh, I see. Okay. So you're talking about that one is the one you haven't
Yes.
talked about yet. Okay.
I don't like the way this happened at all, but I do think that Trump blatantly lied a lot on a lot of his X posts. The only possible lie that we saw from Elon was the Epstein comments, but even then, he said he was part of the Epstein files, not on the Epstein
Yeah.
list, which
Yeah.
is a very subtle nuance, but an important one. But everything that we heard from Trump was essentially saying that Elon was upset because the V credits and all that, and it's like
Right. Right.
you're an idiot. Like
Incorrect.
literally, this is like one of the most documented things that's out there. Like you're barking up the wrong tree because no matter how much you can say that, there is there's no bigger community than the Tesla community out there
Yeah.
that will correct you
Yeah.
on the spot.
Yeah.
And Trump really made a bad play with that. And the reason I think Elon has the cards is because at the end of the day, the government needs SpaceX for one. SpaceX does not need the government. Let's be very abundantly clear about that. That's one.
Right.
Two, if you go to all out war with Elon, Elon can make sure that you're a lame duck president for the rest of your term. Right. So I don't want to see these two fight in. They
Right.
have more in common than they do not. Right. You're never going to agree in entirety with everyone. But, and I think Trump also, I would say, started this because he went after Elon, where Elon was very, very specific in his attacks, and it was to Congress. It was so obvious that he was avoiding Trump and just going to Congress, but then Trump made it personal. I don't know what else I don't know that happened behind the scenes, but say what you will, I will stand by Elon in this case, not Trump. I think Trump is what is and was in the wrong, but I'm happy to see that they're both coming around. I will say Elon probably definitely got a little more emotional than Trump did, and probably was a little more untethered than Trump was. So I will say Elon needs to check that. But all in all, I think the past is the past. And I'll still stand by that. I do think this is somewhat orchestrated. I still am not of the opinion that this was real, but I also don't know how orchestrated it was. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that. But I haven't really spoken about it. I know tomorrow I'm gonna have to deal with the other two. So
Well, you may or may not hear about it, in the comments below. I think my following knows that I think that both of listen, anybody who hasn't been in that kind of a fight with a spouse or with a teenager, or with a boss or even a partner in business, where horrible things are said back and forth that can never be absolutely 100% retracted, has not lived. They've never been
yeah.
married, or they've never had a teenager, or they've never been a partner. So those things get out of control all the time. And Elon, of course, with his autism, is a little bit more prone to going a little extreme. And the president is well known, for going off and just saying what he needs to say. Let the devil take the hindmost. So I saw plenty of blame to go around. I saw plenty of reasons why it happened, and I don't care whether it was staged or not. What I care about is that they get back together, because I had just spent a whole weekend talking about how important it was for these two to work together. So,
I agree with that. I think you got to set your disagreements to the side. And I also don't think like this just happened, right? There's obviously tension boiling that got to this, right? That what we saw was the crescendo. We didn't see the buildup. Can I just, I know it's completely off, or not completely off topic, but I know you have things you want to talk about, but let me just get your take.
and we're keeping the crowd at the edge of their seat because they want to hear what we're going to say about Robotaxi. Go ahead.
I think the biggest story over the last 4 days is not Trump, it's not Elon, it's not China, it's not robotaxis. I think the biggest story is the silence by the All In podcast. It is very interesting, and I have two different viewpoints on it of how I think this or what might be happening. But I'm curious, like if you have any point of view on that or any thoughts on it.
So I didn't see a single thing from anywhere, from any of the four, or from anybody that knows the four, that was suggesting that the All In podcast didn't happen for any reason. So in other words, everything about it at this point, in my opinion, is speculation. Now, maybe you've got something where somebody said something that had inside information, or one of the four said, hey, we purposely didn't have the meeting. I just thought maybe they couldn't get together. They're very busy. They're going all different directions, and maybe they just couldn't pull it together this week.
No. That's no freaking way. All right, I'll give me like 30 seconds. Okay, US, this just came in. China, US agree on framework to implement Geneva trade consensus after second day in London talks. Great. Market will be up tomorrow. Give me about 30 to 60 seconds here.
Okay.
The All In podcast has become the beacon of honesty when it comes to the media. They use a common term, a term of we like to call balls and strikes. They aren't all politically aligned. They all have their own points of view, but they're honest with them at least. They call out when they're talking their books. They call out. They're pretty transparent, right? And I
Right.
think it's one of the reasons why we kind of like the idea of someone like Trump and Musk and Antonio Grassi and the Airbnb CEO. The reason you like them in these political positions is because they're clearly not in it for the money. They're billionaires. They don't care about your hundreds of thousands or your millions, right? So it's like, okay, you're clearly coming from a good point of view. With the All In podcast, what they have been able to capture and nurture is the idea of they're just going to tell like it is because what do they care? They really don't have anything to lose, right? And that creates a sense of trust.
Mm-hmm.
And they've garnered that and they've commanded that type of respect over the past 5 years, whether it's COVID, whether it's the elections, bringing on all kinds of candidates, etc. Being silent now, when they are all four closely tied to Elon and Trump, it's not an episode I was too busy to make. It's not. My thinking is either one, they are just bowing out and they're going to ignore it and they're not going to discuss it. Don't think that's what's going to happen. Or two, I believe that they are the ones that are kind of mediating the relationship between Trump and Elon right now and trying to get peace. I could see Jason's really close with Elon.
Right.
Sachs is pretty close with Elon. And Sachs is clearly very close with Trump. And I think Chamath has become really close to Trump.
Yeah.
So I could see them being kind of in a mediating point of view. I believe Freebird's probably freaking out, saying this is BS. Like, we should be talking about this. Are we objective or are we not? So I could see the potential that the four of them got an argument on top of everything on whether or not to air something. So it's just, to me, it's like the biggest thing because I believe they've become essentially the most trusted voices when it comes to the economy and investments and what's going on in the world. And all of a sudden they go dark. So it's just interesting.
Okay.
It's the biggest news, I think, other than what happened today, that I think is out there.
All right. So now that we've completely buried the lead, but that's okay. I thought it was useful and good stuff that you brought up, but we've completely buried the lead. So Cathie Wood says, Tesla is the largest AI project on Earth. Tesla is the largest AI project. I posted that on X and Elon liked it. So it must be true, she says, but it is true. Oh, by the way, Mario Nawfal is the one that's reporting this. If our research is correct, says Cathie, we believe that the entire ecosystem associated with autonomous taxi networks is going to be worth $8 to $10 trillion in terms of revenue generation in the next 5 to 10 years. And if you want to put that in context, the entire GDP of the world today is about $130 trillion. So 10 trillion is going to move the needle. So that is where I'm going to start our discussion of the the reality that we have today of having a robotaxi tooling around on the streets of Austin.
I just got breaking news. Do you want to hear it now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Question posed to Elon. When do first public rides start? We are all drooling over that one tiny clip from today. Elon response. Tentatively, June 22nd. We are being super paranoid about safety, so the date could shift. First Tesla that drives itself from factory end of line all the way to a customer house is June 28th.
Whoa. That's breaking news. There we go.
That is breaking news.
Okay. All right. So I assume that you're somewhat, in some kind of an agreement with Cathie Wood here that this is, and me and others, that it's as sincerely as the largest product that has ever been, or service, however you want to look at it, that's been ever released to the public in terms of potential TAM, potential profits.
Before Optimus, yes. I agree. And the Cathie's been very consistent, especially with that language. and I would agree fully with her sentiment. I mean, honestly, Kathy's one of the reasons that I got so invested into Tesla.
Hmm.
Um, is because when you take a step back and you think about it, it truly is the biggest disruption.
Yeah.
It's the thing that every human touches. It's the thing that transcends wealth class. It's the thing that really lowers the barrier to entry for people to get. I mean, it does it does for transportation what the internet did for communication.
Okay. Democratizes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Everybody can use it.
yeah.
A vehicle, you have to have a license. You have to have, if you want to own a vehicle, you have to have funds. You
Yeah.
have to have, yeah, et cetera, et cetera. You have to be of an
Can you
age.
get a loan? Can you maintenance it? Can you get insurance for it? What happens if you get in an accident? If you get in a flat tire, does it throw you out economically, right? We always see those statistics saying that most households can't afford a $500 expense, right? So autonomy gets rid of all of that. All of a sudden, a person gets rid of their fuel bill, their insurance bill, the maintenance on the vehicle, the card note, all that goes by the wayside. And all they have to do is pay a per mile ride that's very economic. And I'm sure at some point there will be government, assistance for it. I mean, much like we do for buses and whatnot. So yeah, I think it transcends class, it transcends everything, and it touches everyone. It's the ultimate um, B2C business that there is.
Right. So probably the average family out there is spending some, if they have a car, or one or two cars, they're probably spending an average of between 500 and $1,000 a month per car. That's a huge piece of the budget. Just the rental, I mean, just the mortgage or mortgage, the payment or the lease could easily be that $500. But there's leases and payments out there, let's say in the range of 235 or something like that. But then you add another 150 for insurance, especially after it's gone up so much. You add another 100 for gasoline, maintenance, and car washes and the whole thing. You're going to be talking 500 per vehicle. So
Easy, yeah.
easily. And if you drive 1,000 miles a month, and it's gets down to under $1, you could be getting that same thing without any of the hassle, without any of the maintenance, without having to worry about all of those things, as well as regaining back your garage.
Yeah, I truly believe that in the future we're going to start to see the normalization of not having garages.
Right.
And it'll be interesting. I mean, and if you think about it, garages are a big, especially if you have a two-car garage, normally that's 20 by 20, is 400 square feet. Like that's a big bedroom.
Yeah.
That's a big
A
space.
nice space.
Very nice. Yeah.
You can make a great man cave. If we've already gotten rid of one of ours, so if we can get rid of the second one, then we have a huge man cave out there. So,
Oh, you, I, I, when you said that, I thought you meant you got rid of one of your man caves.
oh, I
I was
see.
like,
All right.
I'm like, man, how many do you got around there?
All right. So some of the things, some of the societal changes, would be old folks. So, I almost am one that, could be in a position of not being able to drive, but other people have talked about there's a point at which you feel very, very uncertain about driving at night. You feel very, very uncertain about going on freeways. Even if you still have your coordination, still have your eyesight, you might still feel nervous about some of those things. So that's a huge one for old folks to um, keep their uh, what do you want to call it? Stay independent, uh,
Yeah,
because
their
it's
autonomy.
their
No
autonomy.
pun intended.
Yes, autonomous seniors. Yes.
Yeah, it seems like it'll be the older population and the younger population that are the quick adopters. Um, and then I think it'll slowly compress into the middle.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, you've got blind and disabled. Those are another couple of groups that sometimes are forced to be dependent on others in order to get from place to place. We're already hearing about parents who are allowing their younger children to go off to baseball practice or music lessons, in a Waymo, where they weren't doing it with an Uber.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense, right? Like with the Waymo, you're not worried about your child getting kidnapped, but or excuse me, yeah, with the Uber, it's like, well, you don't know who it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So less expensive transportation. Now at $1 a mile, it might still seem a little expensive, but and compared to a bus or a train, it will be, but maybe for some people that's going to be worth it, that extra that extra expense in order not to get on a bus, to not get on that train. So it could be pulling from public transportation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll pull a lot from it. I The question is like, how? What's the break, or what's the what's the analysis that the individual person makes on whether or not to take a bus over a Robotaxi, right? When you talk about bus, you're talking about, I don't know, how much is a bus?
I
Anywhere from 50 cents to
no
a
clue.
couple dollars
Sorry.
to ride. Yeah.
No.
uh, yeah. And Uber is at the bare minimum $5, right?
Right,
$5 plus. Um, but the question, has to be asked, like, again, let's say it's like $1 for a bus ride,
right,
and it's at bare minimum $5 for a Uber. Well, that's 500x difference, right? Okay, well, if a Robo taxi only costs you, mid between those two, but it'll pick you up at your front door.
right,
You don't have to walk somewhere. You don't have to wait. You don't have to have all those other stops. You just get where you want to get to. You're alone. You're private. You're safe. Like, does that, like, where's that shift? And I think people will probably more likely make room for it because it's not too much of an expense to not warrant it, and the efficiency and the time saved and the convenience and the safety are just too, the value is just there,
right,
rather than it going to like the value of a bus is it's so economic,
right,
right?
right,
Value of an Uber is the convenience, but it's not the economics.
right.
So what happens when you take more value than what a bus even gives, and you cope in some of the economics that the bus gives? That's paradigm shifting, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we've spent a lot of time talking about that time, getting that time back. And so clearly, when you're talking about some bus routes, even fairly short bus trips can be an hour because you can't make the connection. You've got two or three buses involved. You've got to wait when you get there. Maybe you miss it. I mean, there's so many things going on there. And then you got to walk or find some way to do the last, what they call, the last mile or the last half mile between your home and the bus, and then the bus in your office. So you have all these things going on that you can get the time back. But then for those who do own cars or do have the money to own a car, you're also talking about getting an immense amount of time back, because all of a sudden your trip is no longer about driving. It's about doing whatever the heck you want to do in your little mobile office.
It is true. It's funny. I've drove around a lot today,
Yep.
and I don't really remember a lot of the driving itself. It's funny. Like when you're not so actively into the driving, it's funny how. I mean, how much are you using FSD these days? Like, do you use it for most of your drives or no?
Well, yeah, because the only drives I make are long ones. I don't do any little local drives, so yeah, I'm FSD, from end to end. Yep.
But like, what if you go to the grocery store?
If I go to the grocery store, I walk. It's only 0.4 of a mile.
Oh,
I just
And you,
walked up to get my haircut today. It's same place, 4 times. So no. Yes, I have
Mhm.
driven to the grocery store. If I drive to the grocery store because I'm going to be getting enough groceries that I'm not going to carry it back, then yes, I do not turn on FSD for that short.
Really?
No.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We use it no matter where we go at this point.
Yeah.
It is it's not even just that it's nice or convenient. It's the safety of it.
Uh-huh.
It's like, why would I risk even a quarter of a mile? Like, I just have to tell it where I'm going and just push down and go for it.
Yeah.
Have at it. Do your thing.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. All right. So we have getting the time back. Then we have a big one that people maybe aren't paying attention to because it's so far in the future. I mean, we're probably talking about 3 to 5 years before we get any of this, but we're going to get a lot of land back.
Oh,
I heard somebody say the other day something like 30% of Los Angeles County is parking. Now, I assume that includes garages and, side of the road parking and, even places that can be parking that are rarely parking, but parking garages downtown, parking lots downtown, et cetera. I mean, it's just massive, massive amounts of concrete that's been laid down in order to park these vehicles.
what's even more than that, Randy? I mean, the whole idea of the disparate cities, right, and how we move about them. I mean, like you could see a whole world where, especially now with, let me get a little, I don't know, I don't know what the right word is, but let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a world where we all live in our little cities or little towns, and nobody really goes out to go to a Home Depot, a Walmart, a Costco, whatever. But transportation is so abundant that you just order everything and it comes to you. Now, forget about like same day the way Amazon is. Imagine you want it, it would take more time for you to get into a vehicle and go there than I want it. Okay, the second I want it, about 3 minutes later, it's in a vehicle coming to you.
Or a drone.
Right. So, yeah, yeah, exactly. So imagine like we have these town areas where humans live, and outside of that is all this infrastructure to just feed it.
Yeah.
And it's constantly coming in rather than us going
Right.
out.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I see a big change, more so than just the parking and the garage. That's a big part of it.
Right.
But you could see where it's a, and there's towns in Europe like this already, but where cars aren't allowed to drive in them, where
Right.
it's just, you just walk everywhere. That's
Yep.
it.
Yep. Yes, indeed. All right. So then we have a dramatic reduction in the use of fossil fuels and even energy overall, as all these vehicles are going to be electric and they're going to get each car is going to be used roughly 5 times as often or 5 times as much per day as existing vehicles are. So we get savings in the number of vehicles that we need to manufacture. We get savings, and they're going to be recycled because everything in the vehicle will be designed, is currently already being designed by Tesla to be recycled. And you've got the energy source, which can be the sun. In the early days, it won't be 100% the sun, but eventually it may be sun and nuclear. So dramatic decreases in the use of fossil fuels and energy, and that results in cleaner air, etc.
I actually don't see that happening in our lifetime, Randy.
In your lifetime, even.
Yeah. I think we'll just see a ramp up. Um, Fossil fuels in vehicles may dramatically change
Mhm.
over the course of my life, but I think fossil fuels will be used for other functions
Mhm.
over the course.
Okay, I'm going to take the overs on that one. I'm saying that solar and various types of nuclear will pretty much start to just eliminate the fossil fuels in 15 years, about the time I'm ready to go see Jesus.
Amen to that.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So then we've got lower cost of lower cost per person and per household. So there's a wealth impact. So the new Tesla main mission, the main mission over all the other missions now is this wealth impact. And so this would be a big one.
Abundance.
Abundance.
Do you think that's actually possible, a world of abundance, or do you think there will always be the haves and have-nots?
There'll always be the haves and have-nots. I've talked about this before. I'm not sure with you. I did a big study one time because I'm like, okay, what is the difference between the 50s and now? Which it was when I grew up. Why are we able to spend so much more on housing than we were in the 50s as a percentage of our income? And so what you find out, of course, is that when I was growing up, maybe 10% of your income was spent on food, 4% of your income was spent on clothing, et cetera, and that's, go down the list. And now 5% of your money spent on food, 1% of your income is spent on clothing. So you have this money that's left over, and now you have that money to bid up the price of housing. So I always think that there will be better places to live. There will be concerts that only so many people can attend. There will be jewelry that is, bespoke and that, you'll be willing to pay more for, artwork, et cetera. No, there's always going to be stuff or experiences that will be limited.
You just triggered a memory for me, and thank you for explaining that. I tangentially think you're correct about all that. I think any disagreement I'd have would be just little nuance idiosyncrasies, and you'd probably be like, well, yeah, obviously, whatever. So we don't need to dive into that. But something I've been talking about a lot on this channel, you just mentioned home prices, and forgive me if we're getting long in the tooth here. I bookmarked this. I bookmarked this. For those of you who don't know why Randy's laughing at me, it's because I've been talking about how there's been a slowing down in home prices, if not declining, for some time now. And Randy has properties in a lot of places that don't get affected by this. And so he lives in his own bubble because Randy's smarter than us and he only buys real estate in places that don't have issues with declining real estate. With that said, I had this post come up. What's today? The 10th? Yes. So yesterday, June 9th, from Unusual Whales that says, according to Zillow, monthly home values dropped in 27 out of 50 states this year. I just thought that was just a nice little anecdote to throw over while we were on here. I almost forgot about it, but I'm happy you brought up housing because I bookmarked this just for you.
And I don't want to get into that debate right now. All I said was, if you'll remember, is I said I believed that there would be a lower increase this year. My speculation was 2.5% to 3% instead of the 4, 5, 6% we've been seeing. You believed it would be an actual negative. We would actually see lower prices. So I was talking nationally, and I still believe that we will end up somewhere around 3%, and that by the end of the year, prices will be going back up again everywhere.
Does that mean you think rate cuts are coming, or is that?
That means I believe rate cuts are coming. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I sometimes I don't know. Like, do I think that because I want that, or do I think that because I think that? But it does seem like like tomorrow's gonna be scary, right? Like. So anyways, sorry, I don't mean to take us off.
I think the whole market is worried about tomorrow. We want it to stay the same or go down. We don't want to see even a tick up again, even though the numbers have been so good for the last 2 months. We want it to keep being so good, but I guess we'll just have to wait.
Well, if they are softer or anything deemed positive, do you think that puts pressure on Jerome Powell?
Well, 3 months in a row would put a little pressure on him. China and the United States having an agreement to to temper, lower temperatures. Mexico and the United States apparently entering into an agreement. Apparently it's a finished deal, or they didn't say framework. So we'll find out what that is tomorrow. So yeah, I think the combination of another month of CPI being in good shape with all these things that are happening on the tariffs could get us an earlier. First of all, I believe he should have done it last month or the month before. Obviously, the president of the United States thinks he should have done it last month or the month before. I don't necessarily think that'll have anything to do with 10-year bonds, because the bond market seems to be off on its own little journey. But I think that will come down only because if we're sitting really at 2% inflation, then the bonds at 4.5 make no sense. It's too much of a real interest rate historically.
So what would you think? 3.5 would make sense?
3.5.
10?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
God.
Back to the main story.
Sorry, buddy.
Oh,
Sorry.
it's okay. I think it's just fine. Actually, it's the last one, which is the whole issue of driving as a career. And let me just say initially my thoughts on that. We are talking about 20 years, and it won't be any 1 year where it's a gigantic drop in the number of drivers. It'll be a drip over the next 20 years before eventually it will no longer be the number one job, and eventually it will no longer be in the top 10, but that's going to take a while.
Define your drip by geography for me.
Okay. You mean U.S. geography or worldwide geography?
Well, that's my question. Is your drip worldwide, or is your drip North America or the Western world?
Well, I think it'll take a lot longer to get rid of drivers as a career in the third world nations and second world nations because they're so inexpensive. But I think it'll take a long time here because it's going to take a long time to create the vehicles. Even with Tesla, if they make 3 or 4 million vehicles a year, they're still going to be all by themselves for the next couple of years. They're only going to make 40 or 50,000 trucks. That's not very many trucks. Now you're talking about you need the buses and you need all these other specialty vehicles and everything else. It's going to be years and years and years before it has a big impact.
So where I disagree with you on this one
Mhm.
is I don't think it'll be a trip. I do think it'll take a while to disrupt trucking. And that's only because Tesla's not putting an emphasis on figuring that out right now. I think that we'll see how this rollout goes. But I would imagine it's going to, as fast as Uber and Lyft disrupted the entire taxi market, I think robotaxis will be about half the life that it took, the half amount of time it took Uber to disrupt. I think Tesla will do that to driving, period.
Yeah, I think what will happen is there will be niches. Those could be geographic niches. They could be types of geography niches. They could be vehicle type niches. So the drivers who want to drive, if that's what they want to do, there will be people, there'll be smart entrepreneurs that will find spaces where the autonomous vehicles can't go or can't be the right size, the right shape, whatever, to accommodate the. So again, I'm not talking about forever in the United States on those kind of drivers, but at least 5 years, I would say.
No, I agree. Like, I think you'll always have like the very nuanced niches, but I do think that you're going to see drastic drops in people who drive for a living. I don't think it'll be a drip. I think it'll be an avalanche.
Okay. All right. So
and you're seeing it already. You're seeing it already with the younger generation,
yeah.
and whether or not they choose to get their license or not.
Yeah.
It is becoming insane how many people are foregoing.
Well, with the insurance rates, what they are, I can understand it.
Rates, again, everything we talk about, rates, a car note,
Yep.
the chance of an accident, the lack of convenience, the maintenance, the cleaning of it, the storing of it. Why? I would rather just Uber everywhere. It's more cost effective.
100%. So everybody's talking today. I was watching a Spaces a little while ago, the Bulls, and they were really, really hung up on the licensing issue with Tesla offering, licensing to some other car companies. Elon did post about it today and said that they're all going to have to come to him. So he kind of put down the gauntlet. Um, my question was not so much whether any of them will or how Elon will decide which ones to give it to, whether some exclusives or only if they make 2 million cars a year, or I don't know how he's going to make those decisions. I want to know how much can he charge? How much can Tesla really make on this to make it a needle mover?
For them or for the consumer?
To make a needle mover for Tesla. I mean, why license? The licensing, on the one hand, you can say, "Oh, we're going to license because it's for the good of the country, it's for the good of the environment, to move this thing forward. It's good for the good of safety. People won't die as much if we help these other companies get their autonomy going. But other than that, how are we going to get it to be a big enough deal to move the needle at Tesla with all of the giant projects that are on their yeah.
I mean, well, the truth is, it's in Tesla's best interest to license because then they they extend their moat,
I see.
right? Imagine if Toyota and Volkswagen decide to license this.
Mhm.
You know what they're not going to be doing? They're not going to be sitting there trying to. They're not going to be sitting there trying to figure out this problem on their own. They're going to be figuring out, okay, how do we make profit on this while also only taking X amount of cut? And at the same time, I'm sure Tesla would split the revenue with them, right? So imagine if it's a Toyota vehicle, they produce in everything. Tesla says, hey, we get 25% of all the revenue, you keep the rest. And then Toyota can say, hey, if you own the vehicle, you can put it into the fleet. Tesla gets 25% of it. We get 25% of it. And then owner, you get 50% of it, right? And so for Tesla, it's a no-brainer on that point. But it has to be at scale. And I think the moat for Tesla is mainly people not, or other companies not trying to solve this problem because it becomes a very expensive problem over the long term. And if Tesla controls the software, then that means they also control the cameras and all the image and the video data that comes in, which in my mind would essentially prevent Toyota or Volkswagen or whoever from taking that data to go train on. So that's kind of how I see it. But at the same time, I think part of Tesla's moat or Elon's thinking is it's going to take them so long to do any of this,
Right.
that by the time they decide to license it and figure any of this out, they're not going to understand the convenience, what the preference people want, how to actually work this into the network. They're going to have all kinds of issues. How do they maintain the cars? How do they clean the cars? But that's also a Tesla problem, actually, now that I think about it, because if you go onto the Tesla network, well, you're going to have to uphold a certain standard.
Yep.
You can't have a bad client experience. So I don't know. At the end of the day, I really think that Tesla doesn't need to license this. I don't think they need to do anything. I think they should get tens of millions of vehicles out there driving autonomously before they do anything with anyone else.
Okay, I like that. I like that design. All right. So speaking of getting tens of millions of vehicles out there, okay, we just heard from Elon how he's planning to do this. So today is the 10th. He is saying that he's hoping that in 12 days, he will be able to start inviting the public to get into the vehicles. We don't know who's going to be getting into it the next 12 days. It could be invited guests. It could be people from our community, all kinds of possibilities in that next 12 days. But then maybe around the 22nd, it starts getting broader. If it is successful enough to start inviting the public in, how fast do you see the ramp after that?
In Austin or just
Yeah, any way you want to look at it. I mean, you got to ramp it in Austin first, and then you got, other cities. We've talked about some of the possible cities, but do you think this is something that once it's working, I quite frankly, you probably didn't see it, but I made the point the other day. If it works, it works. If it works, it's game over. It's like, and I think that's what Elon was saying today. I mean, if it gets into a bunch of accidents in the next 10 days, then man, the stock's going to go down. Maybe they have to pull out and not continue for a minute. But if it works for those next 12 days and they start to ramp up, I don't know what slows them down after that.
Yeah. So I just looked it up. It looks like there might be about 12 to 15,000 ride-hailing vehicles in Austin.
Okay.
So it's not that much, really.
Right.
12 to 15,000. Um, and let's say they start off with 10 vehicles. I would say 10, 100. I would say by like Halloween, they could be at like 1,000 to 5,000 vehicles in Austin
Mm-hmm.
if things go smoothly. I think for Tesla, it's gonna be more of a logistics thing than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think once it starts to ramp, it'll ramp quickly. Like the logistics is a temporary problem. It's a problem. It's going to be a problem until they go through it and they experience it. But once you solve the logistics and you understand what to do during a football game, a parade, you know, extreme road closure or a hurricane, whatever, demand scaling up and down, right? That ebbs and flows. Like once you figure that out, it's the problem is no longer a problem. It's like, okay, we know how to solve these problems when they arise. Let's apply the solution that we have solved. So I don't think it's going to take them that long to solve all these problems. I don't think it's going to take them that long to experience these problems to solve. We got football season coming up. We've
Yeah.
got, like it's we
Those
got
are-
lots of things happening. Yeah, school starting, concerts. So I think they'll get a lot of exposure on how to deal and solve these problems. So I think as they gain confidence, I like I wouldn't. This is gonna sound crazy, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the first week they do say 10 vehicles,
Mhm.
and let's say about 2 weeks later they're at 20. Let's say about another 2 weeks they're at 40. Another 2 weeks they're at 80. Like I could see that happening.
Mhm. Mhm.
See them doubling every 2 weeks or so. So, and
Mhm.
again, 10 to 15,000 to cover all of Austin. That's not
Yeah.
that much. That's
Not that much. Not that much.
well, for Tesla, it's not that much.
Oh, no, they can make
For
that in a couple of days.
exactly, yeah.
And he did say today that these are just cars coming right off the line, no different than the cars that you and I buy. So they don't have to do anything special. They are apparently using a little bit better software
Oh, of course.
yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, I some of the stuff I saw today was so stupid. Like I'm sorry, I just got to say it. These people are like reposting, like, "Oh, it's confirmed." Elon said that they're using a different soft. Like,
Uh,
really? Like really? This is something you felt the need that you had to post. Like, oh my god, guys, they are. It's confirmed now. We know they're using a different software. Like,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so
oh,
so the question on everybody's mind, because they've stayed right to the bitter end, because what they really want to know, they could care less about anything else we talked about. What they
oh, so you're gonna tell them the big secret that we haven't told anybody about, that insider information about the big thing that we don't know about yet, but you're gonna tell us? They stayed for that. This is exciting.
I think they stayed for the stock, what we think is going to happen to the stock, because that's what,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So today I thought, getting up to 325 was okay, but I kind of thought it might have done a little better than that. Um, in the after hours, in fact, it's down $2 now in the after hours at 324.26. It was as high as 326. So what happens tomorrow? And the next day and the rest of the week and next month.
We are in a very good position. If you, in any way you really measure it, there's only one situation we're not so good in. But so if you look at technicals, we filled in a lot of the gaps that we had. So we're great there.
Yep.
If you look at the way Tesla historically moves, is that it takes 2 to 3 days for big news to really be digested. And I think today was kind of the start of that. I think people, hey, everyone just saw the first uh, Tesla Model Y driving autonomously in real world in Austin. And then this evening, Elon's talking about when things are going to roll out, how it's going to be, going offline to an owner. So all that's going to slowly start to feed into the market, and Mr. Market's going to reward Tesla for this excitement because the market's future looking. If you look at things from the, let's say, the daily chart, that's starting to become more constructive. We're seeing higher lows, so that's good. The weekly, if you look at a MACD, it's still green, which is really bullish. If we look at it from a monthly perspective, we're also still in the green. And we are really setting ourselves up for a run to all-time highs.
Okay.
Is the way I see it.
Okay.
Can we hiccup?
Go ahead. Can we get there in 14 days though?
No. Well, yes, but no. The hiccup will be earnings.
Yes, but we don't get that for a while.
July,
yeah.
Yeah, that's coming up. And that's gonna be the hiccup. And I'm cautiously gonna say that I don't think it will be a problem because the market has looked past a year's worth of bad earnings, really, if we're being honest with ourselves. A year of declining sales, a year of turmoil, a year of just automakers taking on the chin because they see what's happening. And so Elon and Tesla have been able to hold up the stock after bad earnings just based on the story, on what they're doing and what the plan is. Well, this next earnings call probably won't be great earnings. It'll probably be decent at best. But something changed in the story this time, Randy.
Yeah, something did.
This time, it's not a story that they're feeding. This time, it will be, yes, we have started. Yes, we have given drives. Yes, we're slowly accelerating this. We anticipate this accelerating faster and faster. By the end of the year, we expect this. And people will actually believe it because they're actually doing it. Rather than, yeah, Elon's always saying this. No, we're doing it. We're just now telling you how much we're going to scale this. And that's a big switch. That's, to me, the same switch as, hey, Tesla hasn't been profitable to, oh, Tesla just had their first profitable quarter. To me, it's the same kind of thing.
Okay. So
go, that's all.
All right. So I continue to be shocked. We have a group of people playing the market today. The institutionals, the funds, the ETFs, all these people that are playing the market, a bunch of them are 50 to 70 years old. They've been through Amazon. They've been through Apple. They've been through NVIDIA. Go down the list of these stocks that have blown up. And they've been shocked every time. They were like, what happened? Oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. This time it's right there. You don't have to, you're not going, oh, I wonder how this, Apple store will do selling these apps. Maybe it'll do well, maybe it won't. I can remember that like it was yesterday where people were like, well, I don't think it's going to be that big. Well, there was nothing. There was no roadmap at all for that. Amazon, the what do you call it? This cloud. Okay, they've got their own cloud. So what? There was no roadmap. There was nobody sitting there talking about it the way that this is talked about. This is unique in my experience. And you've been playing the market half as long as I have been. So you know too, where the roadmap is just laid out by Cathie Wood, by Elon, by other smart people. And here's the roadmap. And there's at least some percentage chance that that roadmap is going to play out the way Cathie thinks it is. Now, there might be a percentage chance that it's less than that, and another percentage chance that it's less than that. But it would seem like the smart players who have been through this so many times before would go, I'm going to put some percentage chance on that, and I'm going to play it that way.
I mean, you said it well. I mean, Randy, people forget about these things. Like when it comes to Apple, people forget that they thought that Apple got made fun of. Oh, who wants a phone without keypads? No one's ever going to want something without a keypad. That was the common thing narrative. That was not like a okay boomer kind of thing. That was just a standard comment made, even by young people. With Amazon, people would say, why would I ever want to buy my clothes online? Why would I ever want things shipped to me? Like, with just paying online, why would I ever put my credit card number on the internet?
Yeah.
Right? Uber. Like, people forget about Uber. You're telling me I'm going to get into some random person's car who I don't know, who can do whatever, and is going to kidnap and rape me and murder me. That's what people would say over and over. And every single time they were wrong. So people don't have vision. And remember, even with like Amazon, people chastise them because they're not profitable. They're not profitable, right? The same crap we hear people like Gary Black say about Tesla. But they couldn't see what was going to happen. They couldn't understand that the companies were reinvesting. They couldn't see that the company was making bets for bigger plays, not these short-term quarterly earnings that investment firms and hedge fund managers and funds want to see. They didn't care about that. They weren't living quarter to quarter. They were living 5 years to a decade ahead. And that's the difference.
Well, all I got to say is you better get your leaps on board because it is going to all-time high in the next 14 days. The clock started today on my price target. You know, it was supposed to be the end of May, and then it was the middle of June. But I said, listen, I need 2 weeks after the beginning. So I got 14 days. That's when we're going to do it.
Man, this timetable has shifted so much.
I mean, that's not that much. Okay, so Tesla's.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, one last thing.
Yeah.
My leaps are in place, and I'll tell you what. This last week had me like, what? So this recovery has been very much appreciated.
Yes, I can understand that. All right, since I just spoke a minute ago, Tesla has actually started back up again. It's back up 35 cents since I mentioned it. Anyway, we're sitting at 324.49, and heading higher quickly. Has to be quick. Has to really be fast. Okay, let's see.
500.
We are looking at the bond market, which fortunately is continuing to go a little bit in the right direction, but only 0.6 of a basis point at this point, down to 4.466. And that is still way too high, but at least it's directionally right. That'll be a big deal tomorrow. I think the bond market will be really impacted if we are staying in that 2% range tomorrow. If we get a 0.03 month over month, I'm sorry, a 0.3 month over month tomorrow instead of a 0.2 or a 0.1, then the bond market is probably stuck for a while. That's me. And okay.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to
that. Your buddies in the oil business are shutting down oil rigs because they're nervous about the Saudis pumping more oil in July. So we have run up to $65 now. I can't remember ever seeing only a buck difference between Texas and Brent.
I remember when they actually inverted once.
Really? Wow.
In what, 2014, 2015, something like that.
Okay.
It was weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was brief, but it was weird.
I'm okay if we stay in the mid 60s. I just don't want to go back towards 70. Natural gas has relaxed. It was heading towards $4, but it's come all the way back down to 3.5 again. And all three of those are down this evening. Gold is an interesting one. What are you thinking about this gold market now? So silver is chugging along towards the actual all-time high of 38.5. And people say, well, gold and silver got disconnected, that they normally move more in sync, and that gold had completely outrun silver. So some people are saying silver is playing catch up to gold now, and gold is it has kind of maxed out for a while.
I kind of, I don't know if max out is the right word, but well, let me see. I know we're moving ahead here, but what's Bitcoin doing? So Bitcoin's at 109. I kind of, this is hard to say because I still have my same opinions about our debt and the issues there. But I think if we can resolve all these tariff things, and if we can deal with our budget with Congress, and if we can get to a place where we are being more constructive when it comes to GDP and our debts, and we can actually codify a lot of the Doge cuts, right? And we could do a lot of these right things. There's a chance that you could see gold really sell off.
Yeah.
But it's been a fool's game to try to take that trade. To think that gold has peaked has been a fool's errand.
Yeah, that's a fact. All right, let's look at those equities because that's really fun tonight. We are 100 points away on the S&P from all-time high. So we're sitting at 6,038 in the after hour or the pre-market, and the all-time high I think is 6,140 or something like that, very close. So we are almost back to all-time highs. The S&P and the NASDAQ I think are both like 24% above the beginning of the year. So the equities seem to be really, really doing well.
So does that mean that you think that Tesla gets to all-time highs in the next 14 days?
Yeah. How did you know that?
Do you really think that? Or is that just like a call?
I think that if the stock market moves from being a voting machine to being a weighing machine, it will go back to all-time highs in the next 14 days. If it continues to be struggling with Elon issues or struggling with how many cars they're going to build this year, or struggling with, I don't know what else, instead of paying attention to the Robotaxi Optimist issue, Robotaxi and Optimus future, then maybe not. Maybe we don't quite get back there, and maybe you're right. Maybe we end up having a little sell-off in early July because the numbers, and then we get to earnings, and then we go to all-time high after earnings. That might be a more conservative approach.
Pragmatic. Yeah, I think there's a good chance we see 500 by the end of the year. So I don't think you and I are too disconnected. I just don't think. I think 14. That's a lot to ask for in 14 days. But then again,
but it's Tesla.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you said has it moved $100 in 14 days? The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. In fact, in the last 14, it was 275, and it's now 325. So we've moved 50 points in what?
In a week. Yeah.
Have 5 trading sessions. Yeah. So not impossible.
That's a really good point.
It's a very good point. With you saying that's a very good point to me, I'm going to mute you. Hey, so, Nicholas Gibbs, I always appreciate you coming on Tuesday night and helping us out here. To all of you out there, I hope you're having a good time because this is a great day and it's just going to keep getting better and better. And Nicholas, you got to say something so they know I didn't mute you.
Amen.
It's been great talking to you.